That's good. We're at 7:31. So, ready? We're going to get going. So, welcome to the town hall meeting, Belvedere Golf and Country Club. I'm Jason Labonte, your general manager. And to give us a brief introduction is President of the Board of Directors, Mr. Darren Stevenson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our 2020 Town Hall meeting. Like Jason mentioned, my name is Darren Stevenson. I've had the pleasure of serving as your president for the 2020 year. Jason has a presentation that he's going to be reviewing with you, but first I'd like to say a few words. I'd like to introduce the members of the board that are here in attendance at the club or joining us via Zoom, which include Daryl Paderniak, our vice president, Paul Ulan, treasurer, Paul Pallister, past president, Brad Katowich, Daryl Bradley, Daryl Shire, Kristen Power, Jack Beatty, Dave Stoltz, Pat McMullen, and Liz Durbin, ladies club president. Well, what a difference a year makes. At last year's town hall, we had just come off a few years of very difficult times for our course. The club was struggling financially and in desperate need of strong leadership. And I believe the membership was also frustrated. It was evident that many facets of our club were not operating up to the standards that the membership should expect. Jason Labonte had just been hired as our general manager, and he'd only been on the job a few short weeks. Last year, Jason discussed his plans and his vision for the golf course. However, we were very much in a show me position, as Jason and his team needed to put those words into action. And then just as they were starting to prepare for the season, our world was turned upside down with the onset of a global pandemic. Therefore, they needed to adjust and adapt to this new reality. Well, I believe they've done a phenomenal job of adapting and adhering to the COVID protocols and allowing us to all golf and enjoy the amenities of our club in a safe and responsible manner. And I would like to thank all of you for doing your part throughout these unprecedented times to ensure we were all able to enjoy our club. I'm sure many of you were skeptical as the season started to unfold and the many changes to the management team were being introduced. And I'd like to take this opportunity to express a few thank yous to some people. Sitting with me here, Jeff Lefebvre and his Grounds and Greens team. I know we all appreciate the work, Jeff, that you've done this year and the phenomenal course conditions that we've been provided. I think it's the best we've seen in many years. You and your team have been more visible this year than ever before. But let's face it, we all know the star of this team is really Oakley. Jay Barrett and the golf shop team and the back shop staff, thank you for everything you've done. I think the best example that I can think of for Jay's team was during Men's Club Championship. Jay was away on a pre-planned family vacation, and I believe the club championship ran seamlessly through the direction of Alex and James. And this is a testament to Jay's leadership that he was able to take time off and the championship did not miss a beat. So well done. To Andy, the kitchen staff, and all the servers, thank you for an amazing turnaround in the dining experience at Belvedere. It's evident by how busy the dining room and lounge have been. I mean, even this evening on a Sunday evening, we have a lot of people dining here. We all appreciate the quality of the food on the menu and the weekly specials. And I'm sure we're all looking forward to next year when we get to try the halibut and chips again. A big thank you to Kathy and Beth for everything you do in the office. I believe we're in good hands for many years with these ladies. And lastly, thank you to Jason and your leadership. You've definitely made my job as president a very easy one. Being on the board over the past several years, I was able to witness the challenges that my two predecessors, in particular Paul and Kelly, have had to endure and the endless hours that they put into the job. The board during this time was very much an operational board. Well, thank you, Jason, for allowing the board to go back to being a governance board, which is, I think, what we should be. I remember when you were hired, you said you wanted to create an atmosphere where the members would be treated to a great experience, and you also wanted to make a great workplace for the staff to come to work. Well, I think you've accomplished that, and you've done so in a year that presented some significant challenges that no one could have imagined. I really believe that the Edmonton golf community is starting to take notice of the positive vibe that's being created at our club. So I think this will only continue once our world gets back to normal. Anyway, I know Jason has a presentation to show everyone, but thank you, and we'll entertain some questions at the end.
Thanks, Darren. Just going to share the screen here. Okay, so for our town hall meeting, going to go over a few things. Darren already did a little bit of a recap, so I'm going to do a little bit of a recap from a management perspective and just talk about the year 2020. We'll provide a little bit of a financial update here as we near the end of the fiscal year, and talk a little bit about what's going to be coming up in the next few months and into the off season. And then after this presentation, we'll open it up for questions. So we were ready for a full season of planning and events, and I was excited, as Darren mentioned, to bring in my new team, but little did I know that we'd have to set up check-in points in our parking lot at the beginning of the season. We opened on May 11th to great fanfare amidst a pandemic. We were just happy to be able to golf. We had all of our hand sanitizer ready and all of our new protocols in place. Jay worked with the golf community here along with me and the general managers in the area. Jeff worked hand in hand with the superintendents across the province. And we made sure that we were ready to provide a safe, enjoyable atmosphere for our members. And I think we've been able to do that. And over those first few months, it was a bit of a moving target with new guidelines changing and ambiguity and everything else. And our goal was always to provide members with a place where that they could escape, especially with all the anxiety and angst and everything else that was going on this season. So it was a very interesting start to the golf season and an interesting re-entry into the golf industry for myself. But boy, let me tell you, golf really took off. Over the course, by the end of August, we've had more than 25,000 rounds of golf, which is pretty close to what the regular seasons have been close to over the last few years. May and June, we used 10-minute tee time intervals, and then we had to sort of change on the fly to allow, to ease some restrictions so that we could create some equality and access to the tee. And Jay and our golf team did a real good job of doing that. Our membership has been treated to some great course conditions this year, and so a big thanks to Jeff and his team. And like Darren said, we all know who's driving the bus over there, or the sprayer on this occasion, Mr. Oakley. Oakley did a really good job helping with the geese population and everything else, and he's a welcome addition to our team. But Oakley wouldn't be here if Jeff wasn't here. And I'll tell you, Jeff's been in the golf business for a long time, and he's never had to manage a golf course through a pandemic. He's never had to, see that much rain and precipitation in his first year at a golf course. And he tells me all the time about what a pleasure it is to be able to come here and work with the membership. So, I'm pretty fortunate to have found a guy like Jeff, and him and I have talked about how we both look forward to making this course even more memorable than it has been this season. So. We started the off season with a purchase. We bought some new grinders. Belvedere hadn't historically done their own grinding of all the reels, and that's what cuts all the grass. And so now we have complete control over that. And that's probably some of the results that you see out on the golf course, and some of the aesthetics and the way that Jeff and his team are cutting the grass and shaping things around the greens. And according to him, they're just getting started with what they're able to do. So, this is kind of where we're starting at the ground level. As we make changes around the golf course. Early June, the 13th hole opened back up, and we were able to get a look at the new rock wall that's there, and it's really added a lot to the aesthetics of that hole and to the course. I'm going to speak a little later to some other changes that we've got in mind for this hole as well. And then we went into July, and we had a new water hazard on quite a few holes. That's the fourth hole right there. We've got members on our grounds crew that have worked here for more than 20 years, and they said that they'd never seen the water come across that far. There you are down on number 5. Same thing. So, several courses in the Edmonton area struggled with the amount of water levels and precipitation that were way above average. And again, our crew did a great job in kind of troubleshooting that and managing it on the fly. And recently, Jeff and I were up on the roof putting up some new flags, and we took a couple pictures. And when you look at that signature hole, even after all the rain and into July, just look at how pretty that looks from up there. And then we took a look over at 9. And again, you can just see how the fairways are shaped and the rough is striped. And you all know that the greens are putting really, really well. And we've had members here from other private courses around the city, and they said, yeah, these greens are just as good as anywhere in the province. So we're really excited about the potential that's here at Belvedere. A little bit onto the food and beverage. One of the most talked about stories this season has been the quality of the food and the standardization of our food and beverage service. Andy and Sarah, and even though her picture's not here, Beth as well, they've worked hard to provide our members with a safe and reliable spot to enjoy food and drink with friends and family. Some of the notable highlights would be the beef dip and the prime rib Saturdays, the fish and chips, which sold out on the last night, and pretty much anything on the feature menu on the weekend. So we've got some news about what we're going to do with that over the course of the winter. But really at the end of the day, it's the people that we've got working on this team that are committed. And I can speak for Andy saying that he's also mentioned that he's just getting started here. So we're pretty excited. Over the course of this very busy year, we did eventually squeeze in an AGM via Zoom sometime in May when we were just putting in crazy hours. We were able to make it happen and change over part of the board. And I can tell you as a membership that we've got a very engaged board of directors with a diversified and varied skill set that I think is really going to help us. And the big focus for the group right now is to make sure that what we have in place in terms of a board and policies and culture and management at the board is sustainable. And what that means is that it can last. And so we did a couple things. We did a governance review with an outside consultant. We spent an evening going through some of that. And then we did a whole half day on top of the board meetings with the board, where we put the pillars together that you can see here for our sustainability plan. And we're going to continue to kind of work at that over the next few months and over the next year. But as a membership, more and more, you're going to be hearing about that from the board and from management as we work together to make sure that we have a sustainable model in place to continue to provide member value for years and years to come. So I'm pretty excited about the opportunity to work with a talented board and with such a supportive membership that we have. So now I'm going to get into a little bit of our operational results for the year. And so here's a snapshot at the end of August. And a couple places where I want you to look. The top line, our revenue, versus our budget, it's down, okay? And let's be honest, when I got here, I was tasked to do a budget, and I didn't know how the golf course behaved, and I really didn't have a lot of faith in some of the numbers and reporting. I'm an accountant by trade, so I got a pretty high standards, I guess, that I'm looking towards. So the budget numbers were a bit of a guess based on last year's budget. But you can see year to date, I want to point out some areas. Our revenue is down, probably because of the loss of tournaments that we had. However, if you take a look at our administration costs, they're down $240,000 versus end of August last year. Our turf care, our costs are down in that area, although I'm going to caution that that's not sustainable. We are in an overcorrection year this year and probably will be again next year as we try to right the ship financially. I've promised Jeff that we will be increasing that budget, and because our most important asset that we have is our golf course, and we need to invest in that. And again, I'm going to speak to that a little later about where we're going. In terms of food and beverage, again, a good news story there. We see a positive bottom line versus where it was last year, and that's the credit goes to the team. Andy came in and I said, hey, listen, we gotta take a look at our costs, and we still have to provide a good product and we need good food, but it's not necessarily a loss as it is a subsidy, but we do have to be careful. from a financial perspective. And Andy just has brought in some strategies that are fantastic, having a feature menu on the weekends, along with Beth, creating some hype around that and creating some excitement has really created a buzz in here. And that's really enabled Andy to kind of standardize things and hire the right people and prepare that way without food costs going up too much. So, to have a positive bottom line there without the events that we're accustomed to having is quite remarkable. So all the credit really goes to Andy and his team. So well done there. And then on the golf shop, which includes the retail, but also includes all the member services team, the driving range, the carts, and everything else. Again, those numbers are down because of, when tournaments come in, we usually provide them with some prizes and pre-order and that kind of stuff. And that stuff all went away. But Jay did a good job of managing with his team. And again, we can see a positive bottom line on there. So really, it's just net cost savings that we've had. So, year over year, we're about $500,000 better bottom line than we were last year. And from a cash position, we were pulling some anchors through this year with, I did my best to try to expense some things in our year end last year. But our cash position at the end of August last year was a negative $419,000. And this year we're positive. We had $240,000 in the bank. So that's, it's over $600,000 difference. And really that's coming from our ability as a team to manage the staff. You can see the staff levels month over month. And it's just a bit of the wage control and taking a look at our numbers and ensuring that we're trying to provide a good value, and we're just trying to be mindful of where those costs are. So now we're just going to sort of look forward. That brings us up to kind of where we're at looking forward. We've got a closing date coming up in a little under a month here on October 18th, and then some real exciting news that everybody knows about. We're going to be we've ordered 11 new tarps, so all of our greens are going to be tarped over the course of the winter, so that's really exciting. And the real good news around that too is that not only are we going to be anticipating good, green condition come the spring, but that will also enable Jeff's team to not have to worry about recovering and resuscitating any greens and bringing them up, right? So it's going to save some time, and so it's going to allow him and his group to focus on other areas. So that we can get, top-notch playing conditions even sooner next season. The tree program is going to continue. So again, I know you can't really see it from this angle, but behind all those trees is that beautiful rock wall. And so we've got some plans to open up that hole a little bit so that that water and the rock wall aesthetically is we're going to be able to see it, and it's going to provide a few more options. The rest of the tree program that we communicated to all the members, that was the most feedback that I had received throughout the whole season being here, and it was largely all positive. Jeff did a really good job of working with Beth and myself to really identify, what his plans were and the reasons why. And the membership has been almost 100% supportive of a lot of the changes that we're going to be making. And, over the last few weeks, you see some of those changes already happening on the golf course. So we're really excited to see that over the next, into the fall and then into the spring as resources and weather permit Jeff and his team to kind of clear that out. In terms of our golf operations, looking forward, over the course of the off season, Jay's going to be working with me and his team and Beth and everybody else to create a new calendar of events for next year. We're going to be reaching out to all the tournaments that ended up canceling. We did have a tournament here a week or so ago, the Habitat for Humanity tournament. It went extremely, extremely well. So we know that even with some precautions and COVID and everything else, and without some food and beverage involved at the end, we can still pull off an event like that. So we're going to reach out to all those tournaments and make a pitch to have them come back next season. We were all geared up this year to have a junior program. We just couldn't resource it. And with the demand on the tee sheet, we just didn't have the ability to pull it off this year. Jay and Alex in particular are committed to making that happen for next year. Jay is also, now that he's here at a private club, is very excited to get us more and more involved in interclub. We've seen a lot of the activity and a lot of within the club, so we want to start reaching out with our competitive players that way. And Jay's going to continue to streamline the golf shop and what's available in there with our custom and special orders. And I just, as a note, we were the #1 tailor-made fitting setter across Canada this year, which is remarkable, absolutely remarkable. So I know that Jay and the whole team, Alex and James and Kale and Josh and everybody else that's out there, do a great job of serving you. And it's a pleasure. Everybody's excited to come to work every day. So we're looking forward to just upping that and continuing on that momentum for next year. In terms of food and beverage, over the course of the winter, we are going to be offering the dining room and lounge every week from Thursday through to Saturday. It's going to be open from 4 to 9 p.m. We're going to have a feature menu every week. We're going to have a standardized menu that we're going to be offering. You can take it to go. You can order it to cook at home. So we're going to be releasing some more details about that. We're also going to have monthly theme nights that we've got planned, which we're really excited about. We're going to be limiting the capacity in here, doing some fine dining, that kind of stuff. And we're also going to be doing a monthly cooking class. So we're going to see how that goes. I know Andy's really, really excited about that, right? Wasn't necessarily his idea, but we're going to give it a shot. We're going to give it a shot. You know, it was funny when we're working with the tournaments, we were telling them that we were we were offering a beat the pro. They could put that on a hole and then beat the chef. And Andy said, no, I don't play golf. So this is his way of getting more and more involved with the membership. So we're excited. We're really excited about that. And just, I guess, looking more big picture, I just want to talk about what our short-term goals are. We want to continue to deliver member value. This is year one for me. And like I said, it's an overcorrection year. Next year is going to be a bit more of the same, but we really want to continue to create member value for whether it's a prime member, a restricted member, try and extrapolate on what we offer for our social members and shareholder and juniors. That's really where we're going to start to do some deep dives. Want to continue to increase our membership. Our August membership recruitment was very positive. To date, we've added 17 new shareholders, 16 new prime members. So we've got a handful of new people coming in, enjoying the golf course already to rave reviews. So that's great. And then it is a short-term goal, but we're going to start focusing on our irrigation system and on our maintenance facilities. So I spoke earlier, the number one asset that we have here is the golf course. And we need to protect it and take care of it. And it's got an aging irrigation system that desperately needs replacement. When it's used, we got lucky this year, it didn't get used a lot, but when it does get used, it's going to take a lot of repair. And so it's well overdue, and we're going to have to start preparing for that. And I believe as we start to continue to deliver the member value, continue to increase membership, continue to increase the engagement, the irrigation system just makes sense. And along with that are the maintenance facilities that we have. So all that equipment that we own takes care of the golf course. The folks that take care of our golf course work there day in, day out. They need safe working conditions. They need up-to-date working conditions. They have to feel good about being here. We have to take care of our assets and all of our equipment. And so that's important. We've got a modern clubhouse. We've got all the technology in the other areas of the club in terms of our tee sheet and our information systems. We've got a beautiful snack shack. The infrastructure that needs the most attention is our maintenance facilities. And over time, that's just going to make our golf course better. So what I'm doing is letting everybody know where it is that we're heading as a management group. I get a lot of comments all the time around different ideas on the golf course that are fantastic. I'm a golfer, Jeff's a golfer, Jay's a golfer, and we understand some of the changes that want to be made. Some long-term plans have been done over the years. These are two pictures of the one is hanging in the hallway, another one's in my office. And it's detailed work around what some of the ideas were for some of those holes. As we look to make some of those changes, we've got to think with the irrigation system in mind. We've got to think with cart paths, with course rating, with tee signs, with just about everything. And as much as we'd love to start doing that and shaping that, that's got to get in line a little bit with the irrigation and drainage needs that we have. So quite confident that within a short period of time, over the next few years, we're going to start to make some progress on that. But that would be our next step goal, is to start investing back into our long-term plan for our golf course, and probably refreshing, not an entire overhaul for the long-term plan, but maybe refreshing these plans that have been done in the past and then starting to walk forward. And lastly is to wrap up where we're going here. We've got a budget process that I'm working with the board on. The budget will be approved at the end of October at our last board meeting in October. And our new rates for 2021 are going to be released November 1st. I'm anticipating a similar increase as last year. So somewhere probably in the 4 or 5% range, 6%, somewhere like that. and that would be on the prime rates. The capital is going to be staying, and we're going to be starting to accumulate that capital and put it into capital. And some of that is going to be needed to create a capital reserve, because like I mentioned, the irrigation system comes with a big price tag. Renewal for membership is going to be December 1st, like every year. It'll be added to your account. We're going to have a different renewal process. We're going to try and leverage some technology this year to make it easier. The membership dues deadline will be February 15th. After February 15th, the dues will increase by 3%. Okay, so the dues are going to be available November 1st. They're going to be put to your account December 1st, and the due date for those are going to be February 15th. If they're not paid by then they'll increase by 3%. Monthly payment options will be made available. Okay, so we will be doing that. That brings me to the end of the presentation piece. And so I'll open up the floor either here in person or on Zoom. If you're via Zoom, make sure that I'm acknowledging you with your question. Maybe if you want to try to chat. It looks like we still had some people in the waiting room that couldn't get in, but I was too busy talking. We'll let them in for the question period. So is there any questions via Zoom? So I've got a chat question. Where did it go? Okay, okay, where did the chat go? How did the golf shop lose $70,000 last season is the question via chat. Well, first of all, the golf shop in and of itself includes the retail operation, and it also includes all the staff. So it's more than just a golf shop. And really, the big piece is wages. It was salaries. We just had it overstaffed in a few areas. It was a little top heavy. There was quite a few changes that were made, and so there was a cost to doing that. But that's really where that came in. There was also some other types of spending. And then we also had a pretty big inventory, so we had to write off a fairly big chunk of inventory. So Jay's goal in the golf area is to sort of do more with less, and then to also streamline the options that are made available on the inventory side. The difference in salaries was over almost $100,000 in the golf area from year over year. One question here, another question. Last year dues were held at 2019 rates if paid early. Will you be offering that this year? No, we will not be offering that this year. No. So we're not in a cash crunch this year. So we've got a cash forecast that takes us all the way into December, and I don't think we're going to be going into our line of credit. And so if you want to pay early, that's fantastic, but we will be increasing the rates. And another question based on that explanation, is it fair to assume that the golf shop will always take a loss? Well, that's a good question. It's not necessarily, again, that it's just the retail. The retail piece in and of itself actually creates a margin. It's just, we've got members of our member services team that are helping clean the driving range, take care of carts, and there's no extra revenue for that. Okay, so really the golf course in and of itself is subsidizing that, and it can, from an accounting perspective, it could be a bit of a shell game. I could just create an area that is golf retail, and the golf retail would then just show this is what it is with selling items in and out, and then the rest is a service that you're paying for through your membership, to have club storage, to have a driving range, to have the carts cleaned and ready, that type of stuff. So it being a loss it's not really a loss. And the same could be said for food and beverage. Really, this isn't a normal restaurant. We're not competing with any restaurants that are on the strip, like a Brown's or an Earl's. Our restaurant here in our financials doesn't suck up any of the insurance that we pay, property tax, utilities, my salary. There's no administration costs. There's no overhead that we're applying to that. It's strictly on the delivery of food and beverage, the cost of goods sold, and on the wages to deliver that. So really, it's a subsidy, and you're paying for the privilege of having a top-notch food and beverage service whether it's a sandwich, a hot dog, a feature meal, you know, or a beef dip. So another question, there seem to be a lot of guests on the tee sheet. Are the total number of guests up this year? Good question. You know, unfortunately, the data year over year was difficult to take a look at. Our green fees were just about the same or on par with where they were at last year. We did through the pay, you know, there was put $1,000 down on your membership and you could get some guest passes. We know a lot of those were used, so that was some guest play, which we encouraged. So I think the rounds played is difficult because unfortunately not everybody was checked in over the last number of years, and so that number they're not reliable. So it's tough to say. But we're, you know, we want to get to a point where we're happy to have guests, but we're not reliant on that revenue, obviously. Another question here, it says, is membership full? Nope, membership's not full. We're going to be aiming, you know, we are aiming for 400. You know, we probably would cap it at about 425. Right now, today, we're close to 350, 355. So we've got a ways to go. I'm anticipating, you know, we've had a lot of inquiries. Like I said, we've added some over the course of the last month, and I'm looking forward to adding more memberships into the spring. Is there any short or long-term plans for having more winter activities to get people out here? Virtual golf could be an affordable option. Good question. We've looked at that with a simulator. It is expensive. It's something that we could probably afford. However, the overhead to make sure that we've got the kitchen staff during the day and the staff that are here would probably take more full-time staff than what we would require. We're not in a position at this point. I'm not in a position to take those risks. I've talked to some of the other private clubs that have, you know, one or multiple, and they said that the shininess of those simulators wears off pretty quick. I'm not saying that would be the case here. To make it worthwhile, we'd probably have to get 2. That would put us in about $110,000, and I'm not ready at this point to invest that at this point in time. So we're going to go with some winter food and beverage options instead. Cross-country skiing comes up a lot, and that's something, again, where there is some equipment that we would need to invest in, and there is the resources to continue to maintain that, and then we'd have to put in some work to further protect our greens. So we've just looked at that, and at this point, there's some resource issues. We're going to try to use our clubhouse as much as we can this year and see if we can get people out that way. Will we go back to hitting off the grass on the driving range next year? That is definitely a goal that we had. One of the reasons we didn't do it this year was resource. And we were also worried about the physical distancing at the beginning of the year. Some of the golf courses waited until August to open up their driving ranges. So we offered the driving range. We tried to space out the mats. Everybody was very comfortable down there. There's only so much we could do, and it is a resource issue to have somebody there filling those divots and moving that and mowing it. Again, we decreased our staff levels, but that is something we definitely want to add next year. Any other questions via Zoom? Any questions here? Yeah.
Yeah, Jason.
Morgan.
So when the capital fee was introduced,
yeah,
at the time the irrigation system I think it's been on irrigation here. That was the #1 priority. Expectation there was going to be a nice climate here. We're now 3 years into this. Am I to assume there's no cash sitting in a capital fund for the irrigation system at this point?
Yeah. So the question that was asked here in the audience was around the capital fee that it was introduced a number of years ago. The irrigation was in mind, and the idea was to build up a capital reserve to help pay for that. And he's saying with our cash position where it is today, his assumption is that that fund does not exist, and you're correct. It doesn't. I'm starting to got a capital budget in place for next year. We're going to make sure that starting to collect some of that into a capital reserve is what we start to do.
We're starting the price tag on this. Like $1 million.
It's about $1.2 million to $1.5 million, somewhere in that range.
And that's not the only reason it was introduced. It was other capital projects as well. And Yeah. That's a big ticket.
Any other questions here? Yeah.
Not nothing to do with that, but certainly one of the reasons I joined Young Family, the junior program, obviously fairly important to us. And understanding T-sheet and presentations this year, can you speak a little bit to what sort of hope is? I know that the management group of the past was really keen on it, and almost as a subsidized program to get
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. So the question here, in case you didn't hear it, was about the junior program and what are the plans to for the junior program next year. Well, some of the things that Jay and Alex talked about wanting to do was having standardized days. So maybe it's a Wednesday and Friday, or maybe it's a Wednesday, Thursday type thing. Maybe it's 2 days a week. It's one day on the putting green and then another day on the driving range. And then maybe we've got that chipping facility. We're going to use that maybe at the back. And then maybe, week 2 would be, play one hole together. And then maybe it's letting them out playing 3 holes at a time in the evening, having some weekend tournament events. Jay could speak to it a lot more than me, but they had a whole list of different things that they wanted to do, and included in that would have been a food and beverage option. So they'd come up, be able to get a hot dog or get a pop, that kind of stuff. And we know that we want to feed that into our junior team and inter club and everything else. So that's why I mentioned it as one of our priorities looking ahead, that we are really going to make sure we're going to 100% make sure we have a junior program that we can launch next spring for our juniors. 100%. Okay. Yes, Gary.
Comment and 2 questions.
Okay.
First of all, as president of the men's league, I want to say that this year, as compared to prior 2 years, was a phenomenal year. I was amazed that we were able to get a season in. The support that I received from the staff, you, Jeff, and everybody was phenomenal. It's incredible that we actually got a successful season in. So thank you very much. The 2 questions I have, 2 issues that have arisen. One is the sound system in this building, and the frustrations we've had with that over the years. And second is men's league used to provide the club with funding for the impact scoring system, which didn't happen this year. I'm wondering what's going to happen with that. So those 2 things, the sound system and the scoring system. Thank you.
Nope. So for those of you on Zoom, there's a question here from Gary Coley, president of the men's league. And he had a question around the sound system that we have here, because we've had some issues with it in the dining room and in the clubhouse, and the scoring system that we previously had. Well aware of those issues. Just last week, sat down with my team. It was with Andy and Jeff and Jay, and we spent a couple hours kind of, what do we need to do to wrap up the season? We started talking about budget, and we put a list together of just projects. So we've got an even longer list than you, Gary, of things that we want to fix around here, and it's a matter of putting them into priority. That is definitely one of them that we need to do, is get a handle on that. We've made some changes to our sound system. We've had some of that rewired. We've got some network issues that are tied into that too, that have to do with some wiring, and it's now tied into our POS system. So we're looking at that. Definitely want to be able to come into next season with this fully functional and easy and working. As to the scoring software, I'm going to have to talk to Jay and see where that lands in terms of our budget for next year.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I would just like to say it's Liz Durbin on behalf of the Ladies Association that we have come through an amazing year, and we appreciate the support of Jason, Jay, Jeff, and of course Andy Bishop. Like, it has been an amazing year, and it is our hope that next year that we'll be able to support the priorities of the junior program. I think that's something that the ladies would like to emphasize next year.
Okay. Thank you, Liz. That was Liz Durbin here. For those of you on Zoom, just thanking the team a lot, much like Gary did, saying thank you for a great season, and talking about how the Ladies League wants to, they've changed a lot. There's been some real momentum here with the ladies group, and over time they want to start supporting the junior program. So that's fantastic. Any other questions? Yeah. Go ahead.
I can make some up.
Is there anyone on here that has questions on the, nothing more in chat? Anyone?
Can you hear me, Jason?
I can hear you.
It's Robert calling.
Mr. Edwards, go ahead.
You know something, never mind. I'll ask it of you in your office later. Don't worry about it tonight. It's not that important.
Okay, so I'm just going to repeat that for everybody here. Mr. Edwards is going to come visit me tomorrow with some questions.
That Robert, don't call me Bob Edward.
Tell Andy the meal was great.
Meal was good tonight, Andy. Well done. Anyone else? Well, it was an absolute pleasure. It's been a great year. I'm excited to be here. Darren, you got anything that you want to add?
No. Again, thank you to the membership for all the support and everything that you've done to make sure that we get open during COVID. I mean, we've been really fortunate.
Okay, so that wraps up our town hall meeting. Oh, do we have another question back here? We got one more right
Okay.
before we close. Go ahead, Jen Coley.
I want to thank our past president, Mangles, and our past president for leading the charge and continuing to keep golf a priority with women as part of this club. And we're excited to continue to use, as we said, as part of the.
Fantastic. So that was member here, Jen Coley, thanking the past presidents of the Ladies League and talking about how excited she is for the future of that group. So that's great. That kind of wraps up our evening. So thank you for tuning into Zoom and thank you for showing up. As always, my door is open. If you see me around the course anytime, feel free to drop me a line. Come and see me. Come give me a fist bump, shoulder bump, whatever it is. And we got another month here, hopefully, of golf. So we'll see everybody back at the club. Take care. Go.